Welcome to a deeper dive with hosts Ernest and Jacinta Cooper, as they delve into the topics from this week's episode of What It Takes, Making Marriages Last.
Hello, and welcome to What It Takes, a Deeper Dive, with your hosts Ernest and Jacinta Cooper. On Sunday, we discussed 5 topics our guests have used to sustain their marriage. A deeper dive drills down into each one of these topics per day.
This week's featured couple is Ernest and Jacinta Cooper. That's us. Our top 5 topics are communication, finances, humor, integrity, and friendship. Today's topic is communication.
All right, so let's jump into communication.
All right, let's do it.
So communication, sex, and money are said to be the most common obstacles that challenge relationships between men and women, and especially marriages. Effective communication in marriage involves the exchange of thoughts, feelings, and desires. In a Marriage.com article, 7 Steps to Better Communication in Your Marriage, the author offers 7 tips for better communication in a marital relationship. So I'm just going to go through that. Assess your communication in marriage for 1 week. Analyze your choice of words. Apologize if needed, and rephrase if needed. Take notes. Share with your partner feedback. Practice communication in your marriage. And they say it's your partner's turn, but that one is more about being able to listen to your partner instead of it being all about you. And then the last one is add positive sprinkles to your communication. So let's look at the first one. Assess your communication for 1 week. Are you able to listen to your spouse intently with honesty, patience, and empathy? Next, pay attention to what you're saying to your spouse, how you're saying it. Ask yourself, is that going to make him or her feel better or worse? That's important. Is he or she...
So that would kind of be like expressing with words and not body language, because sometimes like you can say, or they say, or they're communicating to you, right, and they roll their eyes. So because right, I listen to body communication, right, or what is it?
Body language.
Body language. So body language is important. So using your words and making sure that your body language matches your words.
That's a good one. Yes,
important.
That is important. Is he or she going to like my comments and my tone? So think about that before you say what you're going to say. How would you like being on the receiving end of your own message? Try replaying your own comments and tone to yourself. You can also record yourself. So this adds a lot of thoughtfulness into it if you're recording yourself before whatever you're going to say. And that's a scary and powerful tool. And then the last thing under here is, if this type of communication, I don't know what this is saying actually, is saying this should be occasional exception. Oh, is it occasional or is it more like the rule? This type of communication. So
yeah. So is this a one-off?
Right.
Or is this
what you're saying? Right. But yeah.
What it just happened one time. So
right.
If it happened one time, do you really need to, but if it's a trend, then okay, 2 or 3 more times, you might want to have a conversation.
Yeah. So for 1 week, that's your communication.
So, to me, I think about before you speak, really think about what's bothering you. Because, you might, and, you really need to examine that and be very specific, because you don't want to come at them with a whole bunch of stuff and it's really something else that's bothering you. Right. They need to know specifics. So,
yeah. So what are some ways that you think you can assess your own communication for a week?
Writing things down. That's a habit that in this marriage, I've stopped. I stopped doing that a long time ago, and writing my thoughts down is very helpful in making me be an effective communicator. I can be impulsive sometimes, and the thing about writing things down and being thoughtful behind it is it kind of takes away that impulsivity. because you really got to think through things like, what do you really want to share? And is that, if you share that, is it going to go off on tangents, or does it open up for other conversations that you don't want to go into? So, you know, writing things down over a period of time is very helpful. So over a week, I think, is a good idea.
Yeah. And for me, one of the ways I can assess my communication, which I really kind of already do, is filter myself. So I'll stop and think about my response before I say it, and
I
how
could use that too. I could
and
definitely.
how it's going, is it worth it? Is it worth me saying this? Okay. And then what is my attitude right now? Like, let me calm down. Let me, so yeah, that's a good one.
No yelling.
Oh yeah, no yelling. The next one is analyze your choice of words. Words do matter. We say that all the time. Words matter. And so this gets back to what I just said. Slow down and think a little before you speak, which is one. Do an honest self-check. Is my thinking stinking right now? Are you saying these things to help your partner, or just to make yourself feel better, or to alleviate your own frustration and anxiety at what he or she is saying? Right. So yeah, that's a good one. What's your purpose for communicating what you're communicating, right?
Yeah, that goes back to my first thing is, before you begin, ask yourself, what's really bothering me? Like, why am I feeling upset? What's the real issue? You really need to do that with yourself before you approach your partner. And if your partner asks you, like, what's wrong? Or what's wrong? No, she wouldn't say what's wrong. That sounds like me. She was like, what's wrong? Like, everything okay? If you don't know, you can tell them. Like, I don't know. I need a minute. But just but kind of give them a time frame. You can't just be like, I need a minute, and then 3 days later, what's wrong? I need a minute. That's not fair. But you gotta, give yourself, give yourself some time to think through what your issue is before you discuss it with your spouse, because you want to be fair. I think fighting fair is important in communicating. So.
Yes. And the next thing they say is, would you be talking to your coworker or your boss like that? One of the things
you always say that.
I've said this, but I said it under a different context. There's a book that I read many years ago, over 20 years ago, called Liberated Through Submission by Bunny Wilson. And one of the things that her husband said to her was, she described a conversation between her and her husband in the book. And her husband said, would you be talking to me this way if our pastor was in the car?
Mm-hmm.
And that resonated with me, because if you can filter yourself and, reframe what you're thinking and have a good tone and a good attitude with your pastor, your boss, you certainly should have that with your spouse, the person that's there with you from day to day in the trenches. But a lot of times, because we're the most familiar with our spouses, that's the person that gets the short end of the stick when it comes to emotions. They get it all, but really we should also be filtering with our spouses, especially. That's that precious relationship that you want to protect. So yeah, so that book resonated with me.
That makes sense. I agree.
Yeah. And this article suggests you're using the THINK, THINK acronym. Is it true?
Okay.
Is it helpful? Is what you're saying important? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Those are good 5 things.
Kind of a cost benefit, like, just because something comes up, does it really need to be, does it really need to be discussed? Because they could be wrong about something, but how much value are you going to get out of bringing it up? Is it worth it? So.
Well, and then is it true? So there are facts, and then there are feelings and opinions. So you shouldn't be debating someone's feelings or opinion. And facts can be verified. They can be validated or confirmed or whatever. So you should never be telling someone their feelings about something are wrong, or their thoughts or opinions about something are wrong. What you can do is say your intention wasn't that. This is not what you meant to do, how you meant to communicate it, but you can't help how they responded to what you
Mhm.
communicated. So, and then is it helpful? Like, if it's not helpful, you may want to keep it to yourself, right?
Mhm.
Is it important? Is it critical to the topic at hand
Mhm.
or whatever you're discussing? Is it necessary? Do you really need to say it? Like I said, filtering myself, I'm like, should I say it? No,
Mhm.
just keep it to myself, you know. And then is it kind? We always want to lace things with kindness and softness, you know,
Mhm.
because you're going to get a better reception from your spouse anyway if you're kind, you know, as opposed to if you're not kind. So that's a good list, acronym, think.
Mhm.
And the next one is apologize if needed and rephrase. Having an increased awareness of what you're communicating. Ask yourself if you should even say what you're going to say, or if it's too harsh. We talked about that a little bit just a minute ago. Many times you'll become aware of what you've communicated because your partner's reaction, or because you heard yourself. So you're like, you know, like if I tell you said something, you may realize, oh, I didn't mean to say it like that, you know, or
Yeah, and so part of apologizing is you don't have to give up your position when
right,
you apologize.
right,
Like you could be apologizing because you fought outside of the fighting fair rules. Like you could have yelled,
right,
you could have said something you didn't mean to say.
right,
You could have violated your, no stonewalling. You could have gone outside of boundaries that you all previously agreed to. So you can still hold on to what you believe is right, and say, I'm not changing my position,
right,
but I didn't abide by rules that we agreed to when I did something, and that was wrong. So I'm apologizing for that. And no buts to it. And just leave it at that. So I was wrong when I yelled. I was wrong when I asked you a question that is outside of the context of this conversation. I didn't stay focused on that topic. That was wrong. I apologize for that. But no buts.
And another
And
thing,
when you do that, you still are saying that my issue is important to me, but you're not using the but term, which means, forget everything I just said. This is what I really feel. But I mean, the thing is, what you're doing is like you're saying that, hey, we have rules in place when we are engaged in a communication or a heated argument, rules in place, and I violated one of those rules. I still believe in this, but I respect these rules. These rules are something we need to stick to because that's how we work through problems, or that's how we work through issues. So, you can apologize, you can acknowledge that you did something wrong and still believe in what you said. So,
right. And you don't have to have agreement. It's not necessary to have an agreement when you're discussing something. What is necessary is for both parties to have an understanding of where the other person is coming from. Because you may never have an agreement.
understanding
Right.
and acceptance.
You don't even have to accept what they say. You
Well, the thing is are you listening to understand? Well, because let me see.
right.
Okay.
You should listen to understand. You don't have to listen to come to a point of agreement,
Okay.
because you can agree to disagree. Like you may
can
never
definitely agree. I agree.
you may never
I
agree.
Okay. I
So
receive that.
yeah.
I
So
receive that.
and actually you may not ever totally understand where the person's coming from, but it's more about accepting their position.
So that's accept. That's the
Yeah,
part I see.
accepting their position.
Right. But
Meaning
you don't have to agree
you
to
don't-
it, but you
right,
accept,
right.
hey, listen,
Sorry,
when I bring that up,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the accept part that I
Yeah.
was mentioning. Like
Yeah.
you do want to listen to understand,
Right.
but because you agree to disagree, you just need to accept that, hey, I can
That's
bring
where
this
they
up
stand. Right.
and they're not going to change.
Right.
And so when you listen to understand, but also listen to like you need to understand when I bring this up, it doesn't matter how much data I bring.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much money it saves. It doesn't matter whatever the issue you think is doing more than what they're doing. You got to accept them for that and understand that you're not going to change that. So
Right.
understand. That's why I say you need to listen to understand. And at some point, you're going to probably have to listen to accept
Right.
when you realize that, okay, this isn't happening. This isn't going anywhere. So.
Right. And respect that your position.
Yeah, you got to respect boundaries.
Your positions are different.
Yeah, respect. Well, yeah. So yes, respect that your positions are different, and what I was saying is a little different. as in respect boundaries. That's part of fighting fair. So,
Right. All right. And then it says, slow down, reprocess that string of messages that you're trying to communicate or communicating, apologize if needed, and rephrase. And it says, for example, you can say, I'm so sorry, I'm a little tense, frustrated, tired, that didn't come out right, let me try again. That's a good approach.
yeah. And if things get too heated, take a time out.
Take a time out.
And, a timeout can be more than a day. The thing is like, because sometimes it might take me a little time to work through something. So, I've read some say a 72-hour period or something like that is, a reasonable time. And then you can revisit that subject if it's urgent. Because if it's not urgent, maybe not. But, kind of rules in place where if it's an important topic that's time sensitive, that you consider like, okay, if it gets too heated, maybe we should take a time out. Timeout can't be any more than 72 hours, something like that. But we're drilling down. So this is practical stuff, that some of these things are practical and that you're going to actually implement and use. So.
Right. And so the important thing to remember is the goal is not to be right. It's not to be right. It's to effectively communicate your thoughts and feelings on something.
Yeah, like I can think of specific things that I won't share, but where I just want a solution.
Right.
I don't care about who's right, but I just who's right. But I know this doesn't work for me, and you want it anyway. I know it doesn't work for me, what you're doing, and you like it, and I'm like, but you like it, which is fine, but it impacts me, and it doesn't work. So we have to figure out some way to deal with this. So. I'm like, I just need a solution. And, I want you to be comfortable, but I can't, but this is making me very uncomfortable. So how can we find a happy medium? So, really looking for compromise, really looking for, part of looking for compromise, looking for understanding, but you got to be like, hey, look, it's not sustainable. Like I want a healthy monogamous relationship is something I always say, but it has to be sustainable. And, for something to have sustainability, to me, both parties have to really feel like this works for them. Not just like, if I'm good, then, okay, whatever. But if it's not working for her, to me, then something's that's not sustainable. Because, we're like, I'm in this for the long haul is the rest of my life, 100 plus years old, long health span. But part of having a good health span is, for me, is I want Jacinta to be happy. And so the thing is if I hear the happy life, happy wife, no, it's happy spouse, happy. And so, yeah, I mean, the thing is like, happy wife, happy life. We don't do that here, put up the Wakanda thing. But happy spouse, happy house. That is what I want, so I don't want it's not just about me. It's not just about the king. It's about my queen too. So that's important. That's important. So.
All right. This is good stuff. The next one is take notes, share with your partner, and ask for feedback. And it kind of ties back to assess your communication for 1 week, because we talked about some of the things to do, write it down, and then also analyze your choice of words. Words do matter. So when everything is calm and there's no issue to be argued, ask your spouse to sit down with you so you can share your notes. So that's important, because if you do it while you're heated, you're really not going to get anywhere. You got to calm down. You got to communicate when you're calm. It's harder to communicate when you're angry.
Yeah, well, the whole take note. Discuss one topic at a time. Period. Just one topic at a time.
Yeah.
If things are interrelated and it pulls in 2 or maybe 3, but don't do more than 3. I mean, you need to make sure you clear this up before you move to the next one, because we don't want you to work halfway through this and you start working on that and be like, well, you said this, and then you don't want to do that. You want to be very clear about where you stand on one and then move on to the next one. So because bringing 3, 4, 5 things in is too much to unpack. And when you have too much to unpack, then nothing gets done. So 1, maybe 2 things. In extreme cases, 3. But stay focused. Stay focused, which is a challenge for me, by the way. But
So another thing they say is to ask for your spouse's feedback on what you've written down and you're sharing. And
okay.
yes, and to ask for the best way to give constructive criticism.
How do you receive it? So
Yeah.
I have an issue.
Right.
What's the best way and best time?
Right.
The thing is, if you see me kind of dozing off, or if you know that I had a long day, or if I know that, she's tired, is that the best time to bring up something that's really sensitive? Maybe, maybe not. How important is it to her? Because just because it's important to me doesn't mean it's important to her, and vice versa. But I'm considerate. I'm considerate of her feelings, and she's considerate of mine. So, things that are important, they have a priority on our list, because we have our daily contacts in the morning when we talk about what's important. But the thing is be mindful. Be mindful of where they are when you're discussing something.
That's a good point. So when we do our reflections, we are writing down how we're feeling about things. And usually we're not writing how we feel
about specifically about each other. It's about things we're dealing with.
But we could use that
but
time.
that is a
good time.
It's the time to do that.
Because we're actually writing.
It's the time to do that.
And then it says keep your conversations on to the point. So we've talked about that.
Right.
One topic
at a time.
Yes,
and before you bring it up to them, take time for alone. Whether you have to write it down or whatever, but really think about what is it that's really bothering me. Come at them with 3, 4, 5 things.
Different things. You can't do that. It's like rapid fire. And then when your spouse gives you the feedback, don't get defensive. You ask them for the feedback, but then they also have to give you constructive criticism. Yes. So the next one is practice communication.
Practice.
Yes, practice. We talk about that all the time, practicing. So check your level of attention before every conversation, especially the ones you've been triggered by in the past. Be mindful of every interaction, especially of those that are causing your body to tense up. You may have to say, I need a minute. If the person starts talking, you tense up. You already know this isn't going to go well. But you don't want to avoid those conversations, but you do want to have them at more optimal times when you can handle it, when you can handle those conversations. And the last point they make is fight fair. And we talked about that. You have to have productive arguments. And the practice communication, we kind of had an eye on even in this call, because in the morning, Jacinta and I do devotion and reflection. And what better time to talk about something when you just wake up? Well, I don't know. This might backfire, but when you're rested, talking about something late at night after a long day, after you've gone through work and after you've done cooking and cleaning and all of it, that might not be the best time to bring up something. But if you have a routine, like I have a routine in the morning where I work out, and after a workout, my mind is clear. And then we have our reflections and devotions and intentions. So that's a good time to talk to me about something that's you feel about me specifically, not about work or whatever. But for me, I think that's a good time, and letting them know. But just generally speaking, like right now, literally, I'm letting her know, hey, that's a good time to talk to me about heavy topics, because it's the time when my mind is clearest. And the time that we've already agreed that we're going to have. We know we have that discussion. It's set. It's set in stone. So. And so when you're fighting fair, you don't want to call anyone names. You don't want to bring up past things unless it's something where it's a recurring thing. Right. You have a one-off. Bringing up a one-off. In an argument, to me, is not fair. But if you see a trend of something happen, like, okay, this happened this time, then I see this happen again. I've seen patterns. I don't think it's fair to bring up
old stuff. But if you see a pattern and you don't see correction, that's a little different. But again, be thoughtful. Like, what is it that's really bothering you? Why are you bringing, and why do you feel the need to bring it up? If you can't think of two or three times that you've seen this, then is it really that big of a deal? Or, that's something you have to think about.
And then let them finish their sentences. Let them finish their thoughts, and don't initiate the conversation if you're angry. So those are good pointers. The next one is, it's your partner's turn. And this is the one where I said it really talks about,
Take turns speaking.
Take turns speaking, consider the other person. If a person knows that you're in it to really understand or try to understand what they're saying and accept what they're saying, even though you may never actually come to an understanding, but at least they can be more vulnerable in the moment, share with you, knowing they're in a safe space, knowing that you're respecting them, their thoughts, their feelings, and giving them their time to communicate.
Yeah, like I can tell when, and I'm not speaking about, I can tell when someone is genuinely concerned about something, and when they have an interest, when they have their own interest in there, but they're trying to present it as something else. And so, when I see that, then my cards start getting up, because I'm like, okay, you're presenting something, but I'm like, wait a minute, that's the way you're presenting it is not consistent with when I start asking questions. When I talk about deeper dive, I start asking a couple of questions, and you say something. I'm like, wait a minute. If you were genuinely concerned, then why are you bringing this up about this? So, so.
Yeah. So, yep. Consider each other in your communication. And the last point,
All right.
add positive sprinkles to your communication. So think of an honest compliment for your partner at least once a day. I like that. Yeah. Say thank you and I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you. And compliments and appreciation make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. We all like it. And then you want to show your appreciation and gratefulness, and don't take each other for granted.
So everyone has different types of love languages.
Yes.
This kind of sounds like I think words of affirmation. With me, and I think with Jacinta as well.
My top two.
Jacinta appreciate words of affirmation, but not too thick.
Yeah.
Like, if you keep coming on,
Yeah.
So the thing is, but you need to know that. We've had conversations about love languages and where you are, and mine have changed. But as far as ranking order, they've all had some level of importance. But based on different times or transitions I'm going through in life, I've needed different types, more than others. Words of affirmation is important. I do believe words matter more now than ever before because of the relationship I'm in. We're both, I think, because of the bond that we have together, we've learned the power that words have. So, we're mindful of the music we listen to. You hear cursing, you hear denigrating people by name or race, or whatever. It hurts to hear that. It hurts.
It's become such a part of mainstream society.
And because it's so normal, it's
normalized.
It's been so normalized. It's so socially acceptable to say the N word or to say certain things that or the B word. I mean, the thing is it's so normalized that to me now I have a sensitivity. I've always had some level of sensitivity to it, but now it's been magnified. I mean, exponentially. And when people just are dismissive of how I feel about that, I feel some type of way. But I know that everyone doesn't have that level of sensitivity, and so that some things it's always tougher on the person with the OCD or a higher level of sensitivity than it is the person who's dull, because they just are clueless, So,
but that's important in a marriage, especially just being sensitive and careful about your words and being uplifting Yes. And
Mhm.
for me, words of affirmation are less about building me up and pumping me up than it is just to show some appreciation of
Right.
what I do, you know.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Because yeah, if you start that word of affirmation and then all of a sudden you keep building up, then I'm like, okay,
what, like,
you want a favor?
right.
What
What
do
you
you
up
really
to?
want? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So,
Okay.
so awesome. So that was communication. Stay tuned tomorrow for finances.
Yes.
And thank you for hanging with the Coopers.
Yes. Good night.
Don't forget to
Like and subscribe.
like and subscribe. Take care.
We started at 8.